Hey there, in today's video we're talking all about how do you make the most of your day so it does not feel like another day that has slipped into the abyss in complete and total chaos, right? So let's have a look at this so you can be doing your best work on almost all days. Okay, so when we had a conversation with you about what are you most struggling with when it comes to writing, because writing and being able to get into that flow state is really important as a grant writer. Some of the things we learned about is that you're struggling with having that wide open space, the actual day time to write, to have the clarity in your mind to get into that creative zone. Or, really even just finding the time, right? Another thing being struggling to focus. So someone wrote here, she loves writing, but her usual strategy is to keyword vomit every little thing out, which is actually a really good thing. Then rearranging, paring down, and polishing, but it isn't that the writing is done, she's just tired of dealing with it. So been there with my grant applications. And she says, I wish I could be sharp and focused right from the start. Okay, that is what we're gonna look at. So we have to think about how we design our day, how that design fits into the week and even beyond, but the context for today is looking at the day and the week. Okay, so there are 4 ways your day can go. We can have deep work, connected work, soul work, or what happens most often is chaos work. So what are each of those? Deep work is uninterrupted flow state. You know it when it happens because you lose track of time. You feel so good. You're like all in on whatever you're working on. It's deeply satiating. Where I have gone super nerdy on this topic is listening to Cal Newport's book, Deep Work, Rules for Focused Success in a Distracted World. You can actually listen to it for free on Spotify if you search that. The other book that we had as a book in book club recently is Essentialism, and I feel like that's a pretty similar concept, but frankly I like deep work way more. Okay, then we have connected work. Connected work is not actually uninterrupted flow. Sorry, I didn't change that text, but essentially it is that vital collaborative work that keeps everyone aligned and moving forward. So this is things like team meetings, communicating by email with a client or a coworker, project management, taking the time to plan an upcoming project. That is very important, but it is required to be able to get into those deep work states. Then there is, of course, soul work. Really big on this. This is a core value here at Learn Grant Writing. Soul work is intentionally putting the time into your day, your week, where you are filling your cup up and keeping that energy level restored. This can present itself as a learning day, or you go plug in. Frankly, what you're doing right now could be considered soul work. Take a bath while you're doing it, right? So seek mentorship and inspiration. Tap into that creative side. Whatever it is, soul work helps you see the big picture. Sometimes we have to get away from what we're working on to see what we're working on. But what most of us experience and can consume every day of our working life is chaos work. And this is when you are bouncing from one thing to another. You have a million browsers open. You feel full on scattered. I notice that when I get into this state, I kind of feel weirdly hyper, like I'm really hyper, but I can't actually sit still and focus. And you also definitely don't get to the end of the day and say, like, I feel so accomplished. No, you can't look at and point at what did you do, even though you feel like you're putting out a lot of fires. So we don't want chaos work days. The concept that was described in Cal Newport's book is lovely about this. Basically, this architect, Dewane, came up with this idea of the Unimonia Machine. And the idea is that there are 5 rooms, there are no halls, so you can't skip a phase. And the idea is that you have this physical space to get into a state of deep human flourishing where you're creating work that is at the absolute extent of your personal ability, right? So you enter the gallery. That's a coffee shop, comfy couches, people have their laptops out, there's conversation happening. In the gallery, it's also featuring the best work from what has been prepared and developed in the chamber of deep work. So then, okay, we move into salon. So salon is when we have meetings. This would be small office space. This is where small groups are collaborating. The library is when, okay, we're consulting other resources. We're doing our research. This is when we start being, we're not talking to other people, right? You're in the quiet floor of your college library. Then we move into the office. This is where light work is happening. So that project management for the next grant application you're coming up on, or reading the RFP. Like, you are doing light work in your office, but it's not like collaborative type work. Then we enter the next chamber, which is the deep work chamber. Soundproof. You're in a little freaking box. It's quiet. You light that candle that gets you in the mood, right, for working well. You actually won't even probably have music. It's just going to be you focusing and doing deep work. So this is the ideal office setup in many ways if we all wanted to have this. The reality is we can't rig up an office to look this way, so we have to figure out how to create these 5 different spaces within the environment that you're in, right? So what I want you to think about, this is today's prompt, is I want you to think about what ritual can I design into each of my spaces, and what space do I want to be in for each of those different work types. I need a space for soul work, deep work, connected work. Okay, let's focus on deep work first. So when I need to trigger myself into a deep work space, I light a candle. I have a certain playlist I put on that is the same playlist all the time. I like a lot of lo-fi instrumentals, no words, okay? Then often you want to be able to come into a new space. So when I was a grant writer in an open floor plan, I freaking hated it. I could not focus on writing. So I actually would leave and go to the public library. Heck, I would go to anywhere but actually being in my office, because the office was not conducive for deep work. So what will then that day look like if I want to have a connected work day? Well, that's when I would be in an office, right? Or that's when, I would go to a co-working space where I can be collaborating with other people or whatever, right? So, and if you catch yourself slipping into chaos work, which sometimes comes from connected work, because we say we're going to do things after a meeting and all of a sudden we've got a cajillion tabs open and we're bouncing to the next meeting, that's bad. So what are you going to do to reset? The most successful people in the world bookend when they're stopping something before they start the next thing. There is an intentional gap. So how I caught myself doing this was I would go work all morning, get on the spin bike, and then I'm walking back to my house to go have lunch. But on the way, I'm on my freaking phone. And so I'm blurring these different activities. I didn't just go work out. I was dinking around on my phone, and it's like, stop that, right? Focus on, I am working now. I am working out now. I am eating lunch now, and really make the space and the delineation between those activities to bring yourself out of chaos and into a grounding state. Obviously, some quick breathing activities can also be very helpful. Something that brings you out of your head into your body. Okay, so soul work is also huge, and I need you making time for this. So soul care is a big thing for us here at Learn Grant Writing, because we don't need you just to have left your job and be burned out in this new career path. Like, we're not big on that. We want you to be creating some rituals to put yourself first and care for you. So what weekly thing can you do that will refill your soul? So for example, that could be you have the same walk, same hike you take every single week. I used to do that in Valdez, and I knew exactly where my feet were going because I knew the path so well that I didn't actually have to think about the hike, and I could just download. Or is it a bubble bath? Is it going and treating yourself to that fancy coffee because you just completed a huge deep work session and we need to put a pin in it, right? So I really want you to think about, and please put in the comments below, like, what is going to be your soul care activity that you can commit to on a daily or weekly basis, okay? Then what we have to do here, this is actually part of a larger training I often teach within the collective, but I'm trying to make it tighter. So the idea is we need to plan which of our days is going to be which of these themes. So Monday for me is connected work. All my meetings internally happen on that day. Tuesday is deep work. Wednesday is deep work. In fact, we have a rule where there's no email, no meetings, no Slack, nothing but the deep work project you commit to on Wednesday. Everyone loves it. Day 3, connected work. So that's when we were consulting. those would be the days we would meet with clients or have project team meetings, right? If it's related to a project with a grant application. And then Friday, I like to reserve for either a soul day or maybe a little bit of deep work in the morning because it tends to be quiet, and then a soul care day. So you have to really figure out, often Wednesday is that way too. I'll get my deep work done and then in the afternoon just take a couple hours and go do a hike. So I want you to figure out, and it's the same week after week after week. When you get your routine for what theme the day is going to be, because you can't go from a chaos day to a deep work day, and you can't make deep work day an hour, okay? No, that doesn't work. We have to have full-on themed days to allow you to get into that flow state of just feeling like you're not running around with a chicken and your head cut off, right? So that's that for today. I would love to know in the comments what you found most helpful about this, what you think you can start implementing right now, because small actions, what we care about. This is how we're now setting ourselves up for thinking about how do I create that space to write well as a grant writer, and I think that's where I'm going to cut it. Okay, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.